Good morning, White Plains. I'm very happy to appreciate you all joining us today as Governor Cuomo tours the state to promote gun safety. Before we begin, I want to recognize some of the special guests who are with us today. We're joined by our Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, our District Attorney, Anthony Scarpino, the Chairman of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, White Plains' own Ben Boykin, and County Legislator and Majority Leader of the County Board of Legislators, Catherine Parker, the Mayor of the City of White Plains and father of White Plains High School student, Tom Roach. We have with us Nicole Lesser, who is the co-leader of the New York State Moms Demand Action, and Catherine Showalter, who is co-leader of Westchester Moms Demand Action. We have Shari Maurer, who's leader of the Rockland Moms Demand Action. Chuck Bell, who's Westchester leader of New Yorkers Against Gun Violence. And Erin Fuller, Million Moms March. We thank all of our guests for being with us today to join the governor on this moment. We will hear first this morning from an inspiring young leader in our community, White Plains High School student Kelly Marks. Kelly will introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo, who we will look forward to hearing from. And then AFT President Randy Weingarten will speak and close the program. This past year has brought us tragedies and the threat of gun violence in our schools to the forefront. These tragedies at high schools all across the nation have taken lives of our children, and it's brought this nation to tears. But even as students across the nation step up and call for action, the federal government has done nothing. If the federal government is going to ignore this issue and put our children at risk, then we must lead. And that's exactly what Governor Cuomo and the state of New York are doing. Today, I'm proud to join the governor in calling for new actions to keep our students and our teachers safe. The governor understands that there is nothing more important than protecting our young people. I want to thank the governor for coming to Westchester today and to speaking out on this issue. I look forward to working with him to fight for this legislation and to keep our communities safe. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce an inspiring young leader, White Plains High School's own Kelly Marks. Kelly?
Good morning. My name is Kelly Marks, and I'm a senior at White Plains High School, the student organizer of the Westchester County March for Our Lives, and the president of the New York State Brady Campaign Youth Council. Today, students like me are rising up across the nation and calling for action. We are calling for a bright future for ourselves and for future generations, not a future filled with fear, anxiety, and senseless gun violence. We don't want to wake up every morning questioning if this will be the day we die or if this will be the day that we have to mourn a loss of a loved one. Congress has the power to save lives by enacting common sense legislation regarding gun safety. If Congress fails us, we have the power to vote them out. Fortunately, in New York, we have leadership that is taking action. Thanks to Governor Cuomo, New York has already led the way on gun safety. For example, in the wake of the tragedy at Sandy Hook, New York passed among the toughest gun safety laws in the nation. Today, the governor and others are again leading the way forward by fighting for new legislation that will make our schools and communities even safer. So I want to thank our governor for being a national champion for gun safety and showing us that New York cares about the safety of its students. Please join me in welcoming the 56th governor of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful good morning to all of you. And how about that Kelly Marks? Let's give her another round of applause. I want to thank the county executive for being here and the lieutenant governor and all the advocates who are here. Special thank you to Randy Weingarten, who is the president of this country's Teachers Union, who's been a great advocate for education all across the board and a progressive force for change. Let's give her a round of applause, Randy Weingarten. You know, we have a beautiful morning, great school system, and there's so many things we should be talking about today. We should be talking about investing in education. We should be talking about new school buildings. We should be talking about our Excelsior Scholarship program that allows people to go to college tuition free. But we're not talking about any of those things. We're actually talking about a terrible scourge that is running rampant through this nation. And it is sheer madness that society could have deteriorated to this level. We are 23 weeks into the new year. We've had 23 school shootings. We have lost more young people in school shootings than we've lost military personnel at war. How outrageous is that? In a world of outrageous things, how outrageous is that? After the Santa Fe shooting in Texas, one of the women in the high school students was being interviewed, and the reporter asked what I thought would be a basic question: weren't you surprised that this happened in your school? And she was totally unflustered, and she said, no, it's happening everywhere. We have traumatized an entire generation. It's happening everywhere. I mean, look how low we have deteriorated. God bless the advocates who are here today and the groups who have organized, who blow a horn that says, this is not normal, people. Wake up. What Kelly Marks said is not normal. You're not supposed to go to high school wondering if this is going to be the day that your high school has a shooting. It's not supposed to be that way. And there's a level of acceptance in our political system that is shocking, disturbing, and disgusting. There's nothing we can do. Well, it's politics. No, it's not. There's plenty we can do. And it's not politics, it's common sense. We passed a law in the state of New York called the SAFE Act after Sandy Hook in Connecticut. Sandy Hook in Connecticut was 5 years ago. It was a school shooting, much like Parkland, Florida, except it didn't galvanize and mobilize the young people the same way. But after Sandy Hook in Connecticut, we passed a law here in New York State 5 years ago that does everything they're still talking about doing today. Ban assault weapons, no more than 10 bullets in a clip, and have a mental health database so mentally ill people can't buy guns. Common sense. 5 years later, we have a mental health database in New York, 77,000 people on the mental health database. Think about that. 77,000 people who could have bought a gun the day before the SAFE Act was passed, and now they can't. And all the fears about why you can't do gun control, all that NRA propaganda, well, it'll be a slippery slope, government will come and take over your guns. Baloney. We passed the SAFE Act 5 years ago. It didn't make any difference to legal gun owners, to hunters, etc. It's all propaganda, it's all hype, it's all political cowardice. Washington, I would like to say, is going to do something. I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are. I believe they should. I believe it's their responsibility. I believe they should be ashamed that they're in action, but I don't believe they'll do anything. What happens when Washington doesn't lead? You read the Constitution, it says, well, then the states lead. And that's what this state has done historically. That's the legacy of New York, is we lead. We passed the SAFE Act, and now we want to take it to the next step. The next step is what's called the red flag bill. Also common sense. If a parent knows or believes a child is exhibiting disturbing behavior and possibly violent behavior, the parent has the legal right to go to a judge to have a hearing to do a mental health evaluation on their child. Why? Because in a parent's DNA, every cell says protect your child. And if you believe your child is mentally ill, you want to get your child help. You know the first person who gets killed when a mentally ill young person has access to a gun? That young person. That young person. Either through suicide or getting involved in a dangerous situation where they wind up getting killed. I have 3 young girls. Not so young anymore. If I thought they had a mental health problem and they were dangerous to themselves or others, I would want to do anything I could to protect them. Of course, give me the right to talk to a judge and respect their due process and let the judge do an evaluation. The second part of the red flag bill says if a teacher believes a student is exhibiting dangerous behavior, give the teacher the right to go to a judge and ask for an evaluation. The teacher can do it directly, or the teacher can go to the superintendent, or the teacher can go to the school nurse or the school psychologist, but give them the right to go to a judge to get a mental health evaluation before, God forbid, something happens. Why wouldn't you give the teacher that right? Brady campaign says 40% of the time before the student acts out in a dangerous school shooting situation, the teachers or the school administrators had a sense. Why? Because that's what teachers do. They know how to read students. They watch the behavior patterns. They talk to other students. They talk to other teachers. Why wouldn't you give them that right? It's pure common sense. It protects the teachers' lives, and it protects the lives of the other students, and it protects that student's life. Why wouldn't you do that? It has no effect whatsoever on anybody's ability to own a gun, buy a gun, do whatever you want with a gun. But just protect students. I don't care if you're a gun owner or a non-gun owner. You don't want your child killed when they go to school. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican. These school shootings, Democratic children are being killed and Republican children are being killed. This is not a partisan political issue. We want to pass this law in New York State. We want to pass the red flag bill. We want to do it now. It will save lives. It will save lives and will be a model to the nation. And to give you a sense of the lunacy of this partisan environment that we are in, we've been working very hard to get support in the state Senate in Albany. We have all the Democrats who support it. We need 1 Republican vote. Just 1 Republican vote out of 31. 1. and we can't get one Republican vote. You know why? Because they're putting their politics above the interest of the people in this state. Because they want to play their Republican conservative politics, and they want to be in lockstep with Washington rather than serve their constituents. One Republican vote. And if we can't get it, they should be ashamed of themselves. And if we can't get it, they're going to have to answer to the people of this state, because I'm telling you, they're saying enough is enough. They want their children protected, and they want it now. Thank you, and God bless you. Who goes next? And now it's my pleasure to introduce a person who's a good friend of mine. I've known her for many, many years. And I don't use this term often, she's an inspiration to me and to many. She always fights for the good fight, no matter what the odds. And when you're on her side, she normally wins. She's the best. Randi Weingarten.
So, there's not much to say after what the governor said. And I really, look, I grew up in New York. I grew up across the river in Rockland County. White Plains High School was a school that we knew well. I went to Clarkstown High School North. When I went to school, nobody talked about active shooter drills. We had fire drills. Nobody talked about guns in schools. Nobody had metal detectors. Right now, what's happening in schools, and these kids can tell you, is they spend more time in active shooter drills than they do in school plays. When you have a situation this year, as the governor said, where more kids are killed in school than in the military, you knew something is dead wrong. When you have, as the governor said before, did you have my talking points? when you have, as the governor said before, a student from Santa Fe, Texas, people love their guns in Texas, but a student in Santa Fe who used to have a school that was a safe sanctuary, now this year saying, we're not surprised. It's now a matter of when, not whether, there is a shooting in a school. After the shooting in Parkland, because I have the honor to represent the teachers in this school, and Karen McCormick-Lyons is the leader of the teachers in this district. And I have the honor to represent the teachers in Broward. And I have been in Broward, and I've spoken to many of the teachers at Stoneman Douglas and the teachers at Westglades Middle School. And I spoke to many of the teachers days after the Parkland tragedy. And do you know what many of them have said? They knew. And they were without a tool to actually help. The Brady Center understands. They have facts that show that 42% of mass shooters exhibit warning signs before committing these crimes. So the reason I stand here proudly with the governor, and I did last week and I do today, is because the governor has come up with a real solution to this gun epidemic. It's not the only solution. We need multifaceted solutions, but this is a real, genuine solution that can actually help save lives. And just like New York has led in the past, New York is leading now. This red flag idea, which frankly was passed, all the Republicans in the state Senate, it was passed by Republicans in Florida. I do not know why you are not passing it in New York. A version of this was passed. But what makes this version first of the kind in the nation is that it's saying that parents, law enforcement, and educators, people who really know students, who really have a sense of a child who is a danger to himself or herself or others, that they can go to court and try to make sure that that student does not have access to a gun that can kill others. That is the beauty, the importance of this common sense piece of legislation. And I will go anywhere with this governor to try to get this piece of legislation done, because our job is to make sure that we value children over the NEA, that we value their safety over other things. Schools have to be sanctuaries. That is our sacrosanct responsibility to children, to students, to our educators, to our communities. And what this bill does is it's one piece of that puzzle that will help send a message that government can actually be of the people, by the people, and create and ensure that our communities are safe. And let me say one more thing, which is, as the governor was announcing this last week, Betsy DeVos was supposed to have a hearing where one of our members from Sandy Hook was testifying the same week, because she is running Donald Trump's School Safety Commission. And instead of being at her own commission to talk about this, to listen to victims, to listen to ideas, she decided to take a junket to Switzerland. We need states like New York, like Governor Cuomo, to actually step in the breach and solve this, because Donald Trump will not. Thank you, Governor.
Beautiful. Thank you. At this time, thank you all for coming today. Thank you very much.